All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
Oh, I love it. It's the magic of Tuesday. So much to look forward to. Great to have everybody in the mix. Welcome. It's the Big Mark Thompson Show, and I'm Big Mark Thompson. I know what you're thinking. Some of you are thinking, no, the video is a little granular. It's a little stuttery. But the reality is tomorrow we will have a brand new connection. I've got a redundancy working in like a space program that's going to the next level.
What?
I have another internet connect coming in. I've already upgraded this one that you're watching on, if you're watching on YouTube. I have another one coming in, so I'm very, very excited about it. I actually am fairly optimistic as to what's going to happen there. So that is part of why I'm excited.
That's not fake. That's real.
It's not fake. It is totally real. There's never been anything like it. I don't think.
Nobody has ever put something like this together.
Nobody.
There's never been anything like this.
I think, have you ever heard of anything?
I have never heard of something like that.
I mean,
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
And I'm just saying that.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I have. And then
I've never seen anything like it before.
So what is so exciting is that all happens, but it's going to happen tomorrow-ish, I think. The technology arrives today, and then it's installed, so it might be a day or so before it gets here. But great to have Kim in the mix. Kim, I was concerned because prior to the show, there seemed to be, now she's still kind of muted, huh, Tony?
Yeah, Kim, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Kim,
Can you hear me now?
Now we hear you, and you could just pump her up a little bit, and everything will be fine.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, 2 minutes before the show ended yesterday, my internet service went out. Apparently, there was some complaints about Comcast in the neighborhood, so they decided to install some new fiber, but they didn't tell anybody they were going to do it. They just zapped out the internet for the whole neighborhood. So all the places that I could go, my mom's, my sister's, my neighbors, they didn't have internet either.
Yeah.
But it came on about 2 minutes ago, so let's hope it holds steady.
Wow.
60% of the
whole
time,
place.
it works.
A whole
Every
place
time.
without internet. I mean, the whole neighborhood.
That's
My
right.
God.
Y'all go to hell and I'm going back to Texas.
Exactly. That's my view. I'll go to hell and I'm going back to Texas. Your
At least
internet.
they have internet. in
Down there,
Texas.
internet. I'll tell you what we do. We put them guns up. We just line them on up, and you can just connect one to the next. And before you know it, you got your internet. We love our Texans. There are people who watch this show who are in Texas. Tony comes to mind. He's in San Antonio. I love Texas, actually. Love the Texans are friendly people. They got that way of talking. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Oh, you got an interview? You got a show? Can I watch it? Yeah, all right. I'm going to check it out. You know, it's really cool. But man, the politics down there.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
I don't think Joe Box lives there. But there is by the way, I'll just mention quickly, and I want to double back to Joe Box in a second.
Yeah.
There is an update on Joe Box. So I want to get that. But I want to
never
mention
been
that
anything
Cay
like
Johnston
this.
is joining us in the 11 o'clock hour, of course, as he always does on Tuesdays, the Pulitzer Prize winner. When it comes to government, when it comes to foreign relations, when it comes to taxes, he's amazing. There's a reason he's won the Pulitzer. His investigative work, his journalism through the years. We're so, I'm going to use the word blessed. I hate that word.
We're so blessed.
I just feel like it's overused. It's not that there's anything wrong with the word, but I'm just saying I feel we're very lucky to have David Cay Johnston as a regular on this show. So he comes in on Tuesdays. He'll be here at 11:05. We'll talk about Ukraine a year after. What to expect. Biden has made high-profile remarks. As you know, he made that high-profile trip to Ukraine. And I'm also going to talk about a missed opportunity on the part of this administration. And it honestly is something that Biden is very good at. You know, Biden has legit heart. It's not fake. It's real, as Fauci would say. Where's my...
That's not fake. That's real.
Exactly. I think he legitimately is a person of character. Now, that doesn't mean that the system hasn't affected the way Joe Biden has done business, and that I don't want to get off on this too much, but I'm just saying I believe our system is corrupt. It's corrupted by money and all these other things. So anything that comes out of that system for so many years has to reflect on some level a staining of a bit of that along the way. Okay. So I'm not giving Joe Biden a clean bill of health. But the one thing I will say about Joe Biden, alongside some of the other things he's had to navigate a lot during this administration thus far, is that he seems to be a person of sincere heart. Okay. So the Palestine, Ohio accident, I feel, has been mishandled by the administration from the standpoint of Biden's appearance there. Lack of appearance, really, right? And it's amplified by the fact that Trump is now going to Palestine. Now, Trump is someone who's just the opposite of Biden. He's completely performative. He's completely photo op driven. He's completely self-referential and self-involved. He couldn't give an S about the people in Palestine, Ohio.
Yeah.
But he's going. Why? For the photo op. And, is he going to throw paper towel rolls to the people in Palestine? You get the tone-deaf nature of Donald Trump and his crew. But you also see the void left by the fact that Biden didn't go. Now, let me be fair to Biden. He is going on this one-year anniversary week of involvement in Ukraine of the Russians and their attack on Ukraine. This is very much defining his administration. So he decided to boldly go to Ukraine. And if you've read about that entire trip, you know that it took a tremendous amount of planning.
Right.
It was very dangerous. He wanted to go prior to this, apparently. I didn't realize that. But it wasn't deemed safe enough for him to go. So now that he's gone, the question becomes, why could he not at least make an appearance in East Palestine, Ohio? Now, I'm hearing also, he ought to have done that because it's politically, how could he? And I'm also hearing, don't worry about that politically. They're a red state, or they're a small community. I think there are 5,000 people live there. It's not a question of the politics of it. It's a question of heart. He legitimately has heart. Okay, Biden does. You might disagree with his politics. You may have issues with Joe Biden, but I think his sincerity is not in question. So I would say that was a missed opportunity that he could have taken 3 weeks ago. I mean, this thing in Palestine, how many weeks has it been now? Something, I think, on the order of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So even as he, I know, had to lay out his plans for Ukraine, and that has been in the works for a while, he could have made that trip to Palestine, and I think it would have reflected legitimate heart on his point. I get it. They're a red state. They're not going to vote Democrat, whatever it might be, or they're a red community. But more to the point, I think optics are important sometimes, and it would have been a positive. It would have been a positive move on the part of the administration. That said, he's in Ukraine, and it's going to be spun as, he cares more about the Ukrainians than he does about the Americans. So, but look, this is, as I've said, an organizing aspect of his administration, this involvement in Ukraine and the support of Ukraine against Russian expansionism. So it's not indefensible in the least. I'm just saying that I would have liked to have seen him with some presence in East Palestine. Will you watch the chat, Kim or Albert? I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it as much. But all right, what else is going on? Mark Thompson Show. The White House is going to halt vital weekly coronavirus report, I'm reading. The latest figures from the CDC show the continued rise of XBB.1.5. That's the subvariant. So that's going up. But national COVID trends are mostly flat. The number of U.S. counties classified as having high community COVID levels is less than 3%. So millions of Americans who've had the bivalent booster shot are waiting for guidance from the CDC on when to get the next dose, you know. I know that there's some who don't want to get the shot at all. I'm just saying that there are millions who want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. There's a Swiss study out that found that death rates are 54% higher among patients hospitalized for COVID than for those with influenza. You know, you kept hearing, particularly in the early days of COVID, oh, it's just like the flu.
Right.
Well, one area of departure, at least for the most recent variant, is the death rate. Anyway, the White House COVID response team is not going to publish their weekly COVID-19 community profile reports anymore. It used to be updated daily. I think that's important information, to be honest. I'm disappointed to see this.
Well, I mean,
new cases, hospital admissions, deaths. Go ahead, Kim. What's that?
I mean, do you feel like, though, now that the official end date, I think, is February 28th for the COVID state of emergency, that all these COVID updates and special COVID things have to kind of wind down and end eventually?
Yeah, I think they have to wind down. I just think that we're not done.
Yeah.
And maybe you back it off to every other week if you want to make some sort of concession.
Mm-hmm.
But I think these are communities that look, my father just got COVID and I thought he was going to die. And he still may die from complications. I'm going back there, as you know, on Monday.
Right.
And so the idea somehow that people aren't affected, and he's fully vaxxed. I guess I'm just saying, it's not that they're ignoring it, but playing it down doesn't mean, I kind of feel like it's a leak in a house. You know, you can ignore it for a while because it's just a small leak, but soon it's going to destroy the structure of the house and,
Right.
or at least affect the structure of the house. You know what I mean? And I think all of a sudden our medical house is not in order. I don't see why you would stop. You have people, gifted doctors, gifted medical professionals associated with the CDC and with the White House on COVID. Why not just maintain some sort of regular briefing on it? I don't understand why you wouldn't. Just why wouldn't you compile those statistics?
Right. And as a matter of fact, Roberta says those of us with pre-existing conditions want to know the COVID updates. So, you know, if you already have the information, just not to put it out, it doesn't make any sense. But to have maybe to have a whole COVID department like we did during the pandemic, I don't think that we're ever going to be done with COVID, right? We now have this among us. So we now have to find a way to live with it. Do we treat it differently than we treat every other disease or not?
I think we do. I think as long as it's affecting our population the way it is, I think you definitely treat it differently than you do every other disease. I mean, look at this. Omicron is 54% to be pure about it, deadlier than the flu in hospitalized patients.
Yeah.
Patients hospitalized with Omicron, COVID-19, died at 1.5 times the rate of those diagnosed with having influenza A or B.
Mm-hmm.
This is in a multi-center study that was just reported in JAMA. JAMA. We can't play that anymore, can we, Albert? Because of a copyright strike. Tony, we used to play the JAMA every time there was a new medical release from the JAMA people.
Thanks, Tony.
The Journey of America, the Journal of American Medical Association.
Yeah.
There was a song?
There's
I never knew this. That's crazy.
You know, jamming.
Oh,
Jamming.
Yeah.
When the Journal of the American Medical Association would come out with some report. We can't do that anymore because of the
There's never been anything like this.
There never has been. Anyway, all I'm saying is I would have liked to have seen a continuation of those briefings. Even as I know we have to get back to normal on some level, and normal. We just had Dr. Peter Chin Hong on yesterday. He's the infectious disease expert, world renowned. And I recommend that if you missed yesterday's show, we've broken that out as a separate video. You should check that out because he reviews everything. He reviews the next pandemic for us. And when I say reviews, I mean he summarizes. He doesn't review it like a movie reviewer would.
Thumbs up.
Pandemic. I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. Yeah, it's flu-like, but then never really goes anywhere.
Thought it really could have been more severe.
Yes, it was just 3 stars. So Kim is 1,000% right. That's all I'm seeing. Let's put it up on the screen. Oh, or you want to take it off? Kim is 1,000% right. No one is saying COVID is over. It will never be over.
Right. No.
And please, let's not fault Biden for his COVID policies. He saved our bacon after Trump's debacle. Debacle is a ding word. How is Kim right? I thought I made that point. How dare you?
Do you know?
Well, I think
I was making the point, and then somebody in the chat says, I totally agree. Kim's 1,000% right.
Yeah.
Why are you yelling?
I hear you, Jennifer.
Credit.
I'm with you, sister. No, I think she's saying, when you're talking about continuing COVID policies after the pandemic emergencies end at the end of this month, you have to realize that we're always going to have COVID, but the way we deal with it and, treating it as an emergency and a pandemic and those things that came along with that, with the weekly reports and all that has to change and slowly die away.
Right. I see the point. So we actually maybe diverge on this point. By the way, Albert, can you tweet that we're on the air, please? I forgot. Before I get to Steve, I just want to make this point because I think you and I diverge on this. I'm not saying that you shouldn't modify policies. Obviously, you pulled back on the state of emergency, the COVID state of emergency, and that kind of thing. But what I'm suggesting is certain things that are associated with that should be retained. Along those lines, those briefings, the compilation of those statistics related to COVID. This is important. So I'm suggesting that some of those things be retained.
I'm a mom whose kids were still wearing masks to school until 3 weeks ago. They were the only kids left wearing masks. And I think when you are still stressed about COVID, you want to hold on to these things, right? Because they have made a difference in your family so far. We haven't been infected with COVID yet. And I think part of the reason is because we're still taking all these precautions that Dr. Peter Chin Hong has been advocating for, since this whole thing started. And it's scary to take the mask off and to not have the briefings and to not have the government pay for all the COVID tests and to not, feel like the government is taking it seriously anymore. But at some point, those things kind of have to peter out. I guess what I'm saying is we can't hold on to everything forever, which is why I finally let my kids not wear a mask at school. I said, it's up to you if you want to do it or not. And if after a 3-day weekend, or a holiday week, wear it for a few days. See if anybody at school gets sick and there's a COVID warning in the classroom. At one point, I would get there's been a COVID exposure in your classroom notifications daily. And I haven't received one in a while. So if those things start happening, we're back to masking up. But at this point, I think we just have to kind of slowly, get back to the normalcy.
Yeah. Well, clearly that's the way we're going. So. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Put it together for Steve Moskowitz. I was talking to someone last night, Steve Moskowitz, and I thought of you. And I'm glad that my age-addled brain can still pull this fact out. The question was about 401ks, okay? And this is I'm sure this is going to be like tax 101 to you, but
find out.
Okay, so
from that young virile brain
about taking
you're very vital, Mark. Don't worry.
Steve is a tax ninja. So, but we ask him sometimes the basic questions because we don't know them. It was about 401k money and whether 401ks are a good thing. I mean, they seem good because employers match, your contribution, this kind of thing, and those situations. But the question was really about taxes. That's why I'm asking you. And that is the degree to which it's taxed as you remove money from your 401k.
So the answer is yes, but 401ks are fine as far as they go. The problem with them is they're so limited. So I look at things from the tax aspect and the financial aspect. And there's over 20 different types of pension plans. Even if you have a 401k, you can have multiple pensions at the same time. The type of pensions that we like are what I call the fancy pensions. And the business owner can put in, and the other employees too, can put in so much more than you can with the 401k. So if you have a 401k and you're maxing it, and you say, oh, I wish I could put in more, by all means, yes, you can. And if you talk to us about that, we'll show you how you can do it with additional plans, keeping the 401k that you have, but adding pensions.
Wow. Okay, cool.
See, that's the big deal there. And there's just so many people just don't know so much. It's like with the ERC, every day it boggles me how many people were turned away by their CPAs because they didn't meet the easy test of a drop in gross revenue. And when we talk to a new client, that's the first thing if we can do it the easy way, believe me, we really do. But if the client doesn't qualify on the drop in gross revenue, then we're willing to do the work, and sometimes it's a lot more work to determine, does this client qualify for the facts and circumstances test? Of course, not everybody does. But if you do qualify, then you have so much at stake. And there's so many people, and I've told you about some of the cases, but just some of them, Mark, where people were said, you don't qualify, which was true under the drop in gross revenue, was not true under the facts and circumstances. And people got between hundreds of thousands and over $1 million. And we've talked about those cases. And I realize everybody's facts, circumstances, and results differ. But I don't want to leave all this government money on the table if you're legally entitled to get it.
Of course, you're right. And you know, it's funny because we've been talking about coronavirus and COVID-19, and there were all those programs, and this was one that you first popped up with a couple of years ago. And you know, a lot of people who have listened to you have made a bunch of money and have needed that money. I mean, it's legitimate, it's legal. I mean, you know, your business is affected, and maybe you don't even think your business is affected, but you know, Steve has found you ways to realize that you were affected and you deserve government money. These are grants. And so we were talking about the fact that, you know, we're trying to move on as a society, as a political culture. You know, they're stopping the briefings about statistics related to COVID. And this program will sunset too. So you ought to reach out to Steve. And you can do it so easily. We've scrolled, of course, the Steve Moskowitz information, bottom of the screen, 888 tax deal. You can also reach him 24 hours a day online, moskowitzllp.com. It's MOSKOWITZ LLP.com. I'm chuckling because someone asked me, well, how can I reach him? It's after whatever. I said, there's a connection thing right there on his website.
Yeah.
MoskowitzLLP.com. What am I trying to say, Kim? The connection thing. You know, the button where you go,
a chat button, email to connect.
Email, exactly. That's it. Email,
contact us. Yeah.
See, it is an age-addled brain, Steve. Thank you for, my friend. You're a great supporter of the show. You have been from the beginning, and you offer a real service to so many. We love having you part of things. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I'll mention again, David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, coming up at 11 o'clock. There is any number of things going on associated with President Biden. I mean, that's the big national and international news. You know, I'll mention one last thing. And by the way, to this kind of funny question about masking, watch yesterday's breakout video from Dr. Peter Chin Hong, who was here, about masking, because we asked him. I think Kim asked him.
Yeah.
I forget, it was Kim or it was me. It might have been even to be honest, it might have been a comment from one of you.
Yeah.
And we passed it on to him. Do the mask. I think it was Randy who asked, you know, do the N95s and the N95s work? And he answers that question. So that, along with the emerging viruses out of Guinea and the avian flu, all these questions are in that breakout video. So you can find it on our page, the Mark Thompson Show channel, and you'll see under videos. Go watch that one. I think there's some really good information there. And if you haven't subscribed to our show yet, you're just visiting, first of all, welcome. I hope you'll be very happy here.
Welcome.
Yes, please subscribe. And if you are a regular, smash that
with your
like button
iron
like
rod.
a boss. Damn it. Smash it.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Nobody has ever seen anything like this.
Nobody has ever put something like this together
Yeah,
that I've
so
ever seen.
congratulations for being here. You saw the story of this is sent to me by several of you, and I just want to mention it here at the beginning of the show because there was an alligator that was located in a New York City park, a 4-foot-long alligator.
What?
Yes. And because several of you sent us this, and we also do a lot of Florida news, and we do a lot of alligator news because alligators like Florida, maintenance workers and onlookers at Brooklyn's Prospect Park were stunned to see an alligator near a lake in the park. The workers alerted the Parks Enforcement Patrol and urban park rangers. I'll bet those urban park rangers have seen some stuff go down.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think they see a lot of alligators. They got the gator, captured him. No one was harmed, and the gator is now at the Bronx Zoo for rehabilitation.
I got the picture. There he is.
He's in a re-education program. Yeah. He's thinking.
Again, gators are cold-blooded, so I can't imagine them surviving too long in the frigid waters of New York.
No, I agree. And apparently he's not doing well. The animal was found in poor condition, very lethargic, possibly in shock due to what? The cold water. Look at Albert. He's quite the expert on alligators.
Yeah, and alligators can climb fences if you missed the show on Friday. They can climb
That's
fences.
another thing. That breakout video is there too. Friday Fabulous Florida. There is a major alligator fence climb that's featured there, and he made it look easy.
Well, Albert's been working the Florida beat for a while, so he's up on his gator knowledge. Well done.
It's true. No, it's true. When it comes to gators, Albert is really without peer. They think that the animal is what? A pet. It got away from somebody, right?
Somebody had a pet gator?
Yeah. Oh, people have pet everything. I've recommended this movie to you before. It's called The Animal. Check this, Albert. It's, I think, The Elephant in the Living Room.
Google it.
I believe that's what it's called. And it's about all the people and exotic pets, but it's a good movie. It's not just like a feature story about people who have exotic pets. It's about how ridiculous having an exotic pet is. Alligator is maybe even on the smaller scale of what some of these people have. People have giraffes. They literally have an elephant but they also have these smaller collections of creatures that are exotic. And then one gets out, and then several get out of an enclosure, and then you see a real problem for a community, right? And they shoot them all. That's what happens, I think, early on in the film.
Yeah,
what's it called, Albert?
The Elephant in the Living Room, a 2010 release. And I'm sure, I think Texas has some really loose laws, so you see a lot of those exotic animals in Texas, because you'll see like kangaroos, you'll see big cats there, and yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Albert is right. They have way loose laws on exotic pets in Texas. Yeah. What's that, Kim?
I can't even imagine. I mean, I guess maybe if you had lots and lots of property, but even then, what's that animal gonna do there?
It's like having two teenagers, which you're going to have soon. But imagine if they could just do whatever the hell they wanted to and couldn't speak to you and that couldn't understand you. It would be a little bit tough. You couldn't build an enclosure big enough for the teenagers.
Yeah. No.
Someone is remarking on this, and we'll deal with it. From Brian, Mark, why is your studio so darn dark?
Oh,
is it dark?
Well, you're darker than mine, I think. But I think you're
because of the darkness in my heart. Do you think? Or
I think it's it's definitely the black heart situation. But I can see your face just fine.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. That's all you need to see is my face.
There's never been anything like this.
That's right. It's a little dark.
I have never heard of something like that.
Well, it does happen. The darkness. I mean, it's not completely unprecedented.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
I just am saying but I'll try to throw a little more light on my scene here during Kim's news, which is upcoming. I also have a little mini Law and Disorder, and there's quite the bit of disorder. It involves Alec Baldwin. It involves Michael Irvin, who you'll remember was pulled off of all the Super Bowl broadcasts because of an allegation of harassment by the Marriott Corporation. He was harassing a woman, sexually harassing her in the lobby was the allegation. But I'll give you the update on that. And a bizarre, this is also sent to us by several people, a bizarre key lime pie confrontation that ends in a courtroom. In the 11 o'clock hour, David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner on Ukraine, 1 year later. Smash that like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Let's start with President Biden. He says the world will not look the other way as Russia wages war on Ukraine. While speaking from Warsaw, Poland, the president said the world continues to rally together to back Ukraine as the invasion gets ready to hit the 1 year mark. It has been 12 straight months of decline for, unfortunately, existing home sales. That's what it looks like. The National Association of Realtors says sales of previously owned homes fell 0.7% in December to its weakest rate in a decade. And overall, sales were down about 37% from the previous year. In Oakland, the former police chief plans to start the appeal process this week. This is former Oakland police chief LaRon Armstrong. He was fired last week, a month after being put on paid leave. He is accused of not properly investigating one of his sergeants for alleged misconduct. Hundreds of his supporters gathered in front of City Hall yesterday in a rally led by the city's NAACP chapter. They claim he was ambushed and sabotaged. They want Chief Armstrong back on the job. New developments in the killing of a Southern California bishop. This is David O'Connell. He was found shot to death in his Hacienda Heights house on Saturday. Now, his housekeeper's husband is behind bars. Police say the man had previously done work at the home and that they were tipped off about him, claiming he was still owed money. The 69-year-old victim was a priest and later a bishop with the Archdiocese of Los Angeles for 45 years.
This is why I always clean my own house. You just cannot really, some deranged husband claiming you owe the money.
Well, you
killed
never
the guy.
know. Yeah.
And that guy was like loved. He worked with the poor. He seemed as though he had, all the right moves when it comes to what you want in a priest.
Right. I mean, you never know what crazy.
He was my perfect priest.
I'm sure that you were there at service every Sunday.
In my heart.
But yeah, it's the housekeeper's husband who I guess had done some work at the home. So it wasn't the housekeeper, but her husband who I guess had been hired to fix some things or something. So allegedly it was him. And again, the arrest was made yesterday. The North Bay valleys, kind of exciting, could get a rare dusting of snow this week. Happened a while back. This is a Petaluma police cruiser, and this is when it snowed. I don't know how many years ago this happened, but he woke up and there was just a light dusting of snow, enough to make a snowball and throw it. Could it happen again? Well, the National Weather Service says the snow level could drop as low as 1,000 feet Thursday and Friday. That is because the storm moving in is expected to be one of the coldest in many years, and forecasters are calling for a shift in the weather to start this afternoon. A half inch of rain possible from this storm, along with wind gusts of up to 65 miles an hour. Santa Rosa is expected to see temperatures in the upper 20s and low 30s Thursday and Friday mornings. So will we get snow in the North Bay? Could happen. We'll see.
Wow.
Yeah, making snow angels on Petaluma Boulevard. We'll see if it happens. There is a state lawmaker in, the fine state of Florida who wants to name part of a road in Hernando County after the late talk show host, Rush Limbaugh. Republican state senator.
I was hoping for Phil Donahue, but I got Rush Limbaugh.
I'm
tough.
sorry.
Yeah.
I tried to do the dramatic pause on the
Yeah,
picture.
it was well done, actually.
Thank you.
I got the 00, and I was hoping for red 5. Yeah.
So Republican State Senator Blaise Ingoglia wants to designate a stretch of Cortez Boulevard between Highway 41, which is apparently by the Whole Foods, and State Road 50 in Brooksville as Rush Limbaugh Way. He has filed a name change bill for the regular legislative session that would take effect in July if passed. Of course, Limbaugh hosted a national radio show started in 1988 until his death in 2021, and he lived in Palm Beach for about 20 years, so he could have his own road named after him. C. Mark, you too, posthumously, might have a road named after you.
I love that plan. Doesn't have to be a big road. I'd like it to be a nice road, and I'd like posthumously to get a name.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I think it is a big word. Yes,
Mark Thompson Trail.
Yeah, why not?
Right?
You know. Yeah.
I mean, we could go boulevard. We could go bigger.
A trail is a little diminishing, if I can just say,
Truth. Yeah. How about
Avenue is strong. Okay, Avenue is a real strong. Boulevard is the strongest.
I like the alliteration of Thompson Trail, but I hear you.
Boulevard
is the biggest.
Certain tree hugger quality, which I like because I am sort of a tree hugger. Yeah.
There's never been anything like this.
We're gonna table this discussion.
I've never seen anything like it before.
Wouldn't you say we've never heard of anything?
I have never heard of something like that.
I mean, I just mean never in our history has there been a Thompson Trail.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares
to this.
Yes.
We're going to just discuss this, though. I think this is a great idea. You know, so things to have on the list for after you croak. We're going to put that on.
The after you croak list.
After you croak, yeah, the Mark Thompson after I croak list. You just leave that.
Thompson Terrace is being suggested.
Oh, I like that.
Dave, that's very strong.
Dave, well done, Thompson.
Lane
Terrace.
is weak, says Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Thompson Way, says Joe. Way is nice. I have to say, Way can go a lot of different directions. Yeah. Well,
no.
Look, if Rush
maybe
can
Mark
get one,
Thompson loop.
Loop, loop.
Thompson Turnpike isn't bad.
That's big. Yeah.
That's pretty big. I don't think I'm going to get one of those, just to be honest.
I like the fancy nature of Thompson Terrace. I think that was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can make it happen, it'd be pretty amazing. But I would really love it if, like in another generation or so, they'll rename Limbaugh's Road
after
Thompson Terrace or whatever you want. Yeah.
Well, you have done a lot for the great state of Florida.
That's exactly. Yeah. Florida we have a love-hate. Anyway, continue, Kim, please. There's never been anything like that.
Have you ever seen anything like
that? Go ahead.
Archaeologists in China have turned up the remains of what might be the world's oldest known potty. Well, flush toilet is what the article says. The Chinese state media reported last week that a research team found broken parts of a 2,400-year-old toilet along with a bent flush pipe last summer. The ancient sanitation device was discovered among palace ruins at an archaeological site in central China. According to state-owned China Daily, researchers believe this potty was inside the palace with a pipe leading to an outside pit. Servants likely would have poured water into the toilet bowl every time it was used. So, evidence.
That was a lovely tradition, wasn't it? The servants pulling the water. Yeah.
Yeah,
really.
It's too bad we had to move away from that.
But... Yeah, let's make America great again.
This report, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. I'll let you look at the potty. No, I won't. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. So if you need help with your taxes, we believe in Steve Moskowitz. He's at 888-TAX-STEAL and MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Everything is going extremely well. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Apologize to every preacher and pastor.
What he's got going here is a situation. We have processes and protocols and standards.
No.
60% of the time, it works every time.
What up, friends? What up? Welcome. It is our big Tuesday show. And I'm not just saying that. David Cay Johnston joins us on Tuesdays. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner. And so very excited about that. Is my camera a little lighter? There was a request that my studio was, people like to really luxuriate in the magic that is Mark Thompson and the studio. Was any improvement, Tony, from your end?
Thanks, Tony.
No?
Looks about the same.
About the same. Great. So I was running around for no reason.
You two look like your rooms are lit about the same amount. Maybe Tony a little lighter. It's my room that my camera makes everything look kind of orangish yellow.
I think you look great orangish, actually.
Brighter. Thank you. Yeah. So I don't know.
I'm going to turn up the light a little bit here. So maybe I'll do that. While I do that, here, you can listen to this.
Oh, off he goes. Maybe what we need is
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show gear. Don't you think?
Mark Thompson.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
Oh, I love this one, actually. This is a good little bump.
There's a reason that this place is fire.
I like this sweeper. A little long right now.
Kind of happy. The music reminds me of a Disney ride.
Yeah, I love it, baby. Come on now.
My bad. I'm sorry.
All right.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
We love it. Yeah. All right. That's the. Any better on the picture? No. Okay.
It's the same.
No.
That was great. Thank you for skipping off to the lights. That made a big difference.
That doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
We do our best. Look, there's never been anything like this. So nobody's ever seen anything like this before.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
Now, what is it, Kim?
I think I was remiss in not mentioning, and maybe you already did. Today is the day, I think, in New Orleans that ladies show their boobs for beads.
Google it.
No, well, that's a lovely tradition.
I believe it's called
That's
Fat
America.
Tuesday. Yeah. So happy Fat Tuesday, everybody.
Yes, happy Fat Tuesday, everyone. That's very, very cool. Albert, you're going to tell me what we're going to do. Law and Disorder first, and then shout outs to people who supported us today. Is that what you mean?
Yep, that sounds good. You ready?
Let's do it.
We like the criminal justice system, the people,
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care.
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Alec Baldwin is no longer going to face firearm enhancement in his manslaughter charge, according to prosecutors in that case. So the reality on that is there might have been, we'll talk to David Katz about this. I actually saw, and we'll share with you on Thursday when David joins us. David Katz, the former U.S. attorney.
Yeah.
Assistant U.S. attorney. David talks about the fact that there was in that Alec Baldwin case a judge who was a real Trumpy, like really carrying the torch for Trump. And in so doing, the enhancement David was suggesting, at least it was implied and many were concerned, was owing to the fact that the judge saw Baldwin as someone who had done the impression of Trump on SNL and was a real anti-Trumper.
Yeah.
And so may have provided the court and the prosecution with an enhancement that wasn't really grounded in legitimacy, was the thinking. And so that's something I'll ask David about. But for now, You should just know that indeed the Alec Baldwin case will no longer include that firearm enhancement. And this is a case, look, I've met Alec Baldwin a few times. I told you about the story when, I don't think I did actually, but I'll just tell you, I'll just reference it now in 20 seconds or less. His brother tried to essentially scoop my date away from me at a bar in Los Angeles. Absolutely true.
Bad form.
And the Baldwin kids are all handsome, and they're stars and stuff. And so I don't have some, abiding love for the Baldwins. I mean, I think his heart is probably in the right place on so many things. But anyway, whatever. My point is, I'm not a Baldwin backer per se, but I do feel as though there's a limit to what you can ask an actor on set to be responsible for. And because he's a high-profile guy, and this is an insanely tragic, bizarre accident, I think he was tagged with this a little bit more than someone else might have been, I guess it might be a way to put it. I mean, once they give you a gun and they say it's a cold gun on a set, right? Based on everything we've read, I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to double check that as the actor? You have other stuff you're doing, right, Kim?
So I agree with that completely. If he were not the executive producer who decided how much funding would be allocated for things like, I don't know, the person who maintains gun safety on set. So
the armorer, right?
If they can show that there was some type of cutback or negligence in how much money was being given and where these people were staying and were they exhausted and were they tired and had the producers been told this, those things could show a pattern of negligence on set. But just being an actor and being handed a weapon, and not really being a gun person, I think you would have to trust the armorer. I know people that have guns, own guns. Like my father, for instance, would never take a gun into his hand without looking inside of it and verifying for himself first. I'm not that person. I don't know very much about guns. So I think if that's the case with Alec Baldwin or any actor, you have to trust that the professionals are telling you something that's true.
Yes, right. I mean, you said a lot there, and I agree
Sorry.
I agree with most all of it.
How you do go on.
No, I liked it. I thought you were addressing everything well. And look, I want to say this, but I've been in a bunch of films myself, as you're well aware. Yes, I'm just saying, I've done a few things as a performer. You're concentrating on your performance.
Yeah.
Kim makes a good point about him being a producer. His argument is, just so you're aware of it, that he was a creative producer. He's not there necessarily reviewing budgets for the armorer and the prop person, etc. Now, as I also told you, insiders, we had a really good inside track on this and other productions that were filming in the same area. These are small independent productions. They essentially break out a lot of the what they call above the line costs, the money for the stars, etc. That's out ahead of time. And then the below the line costs, the actual funds dedicated to doing the film, they tend to be much less. And so you end up with, on a, let's say, $3 million movie, $2.5 million going to above the line cost, and you're doing the whole movie for $500,000. As a result, you get rid of the armorer. Instead, you have the prop person be the armorer also. And then it would appear, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the set. Maybe they weren't staying at the nicest places. There was a sense among the crew, we read that they were angry about the fact that they were staying 30 miles from the set or whatever it might be. I mean, it was a set that seemed to have issues. And then they are using that same gun for target practice. Remember, they were using it with live ammo. So there was live ammo in and around that set. All of this is going to come out in court. But to that extent, it was a loose and poorly funded production. And maybe they could tag him with some of that.
Indirect says you pull the clip and clear the chamber. That's great, Indirect, if you know how to do that. If someone handed me a gun, I would have zero clue how to do that. I don't know what okay, sounds great. But what if you're not that kind of person that knows how?
Right, exactly. And really, you have to view it, it's just a prop that is being used in the scene. It's not a I don't know what it is. All I know it's a thing. I point and I'm worried about camera angles and a look that I'm trying. If I'm an actor, right? I'm not there. That's the reason that you hire somebody who's dedicated to somebody else pulls that chamber and empties the clip or whatever you were saying. There's somebody else dedicated to that. By the time it gets to me as the actor, they tell me it's a cold weapon. There's nothing loaded in it. And then that's wrong. So, I mean, it would be like going to the OR and having to check your own anesthesia. I'm not here for that. I'm here to, I'm doing something else. I'm doing the retraction of the whatever it is in the OR, right? You know how everybody in the OR comes with a very specific job?
Yeah.
You know, the surgeon comes with something, the anesthesiologist, there's a nurse, there's an assistant to this and that. That's the way a movie set is. You know, you have the electricians, you've got the gaffers, you've got the prop people, you have the actors, you have the cinematographer, you have the director, etc. In fact, it's a union violation oftentimes to mess with something, let's say with the audio. You know what I mean? That's a union job. So all we're trying to say here is I think that on this set, this will be interesting to see how it plays out. This is a horrible accident. And they did, and it was a condition of, this is a weird thing about this, and then we'll move on. They did commit to restarting this film and finishing it. To me, that's wild. But
they would keep going. Yeah, it is weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll tell you one thing, and this is a horrible thing to say, but, you know, that's what they pay me for, saying the horrible stuff. That film is going to do incredible business. The curiosity factor alone will vault it to. Tell me you're not going to watch Rust, right?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, there are a few of you who are going to go, I wouldn't watch it, Mark. I'm sorry. I don't condone what happened on that set and how they handled it. All right. But most people are going to watch it. Everybody slows down for the accident. Everybody slows down at the intersection to see what happened. And that's what's going to happen here. So.
Oh, I have to say, Lori is joining us today from the Caribbean Princess cruise ship.
Wow, that's so cool. Lori, you're the most exotic joiner of the entire. I mean, I've never heard anything like this in our history.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
That's true. Yeah. And by the way, on a cruise ship, internet is really hard to come by. I mean, you get it, but it's not really the quickest connection. So for you to commit to any sort of viewing of this stream is really impressive.
Very much so. Yeah.
So congratulations for being here.
We've never seen anything like it before.
We have not. You, I think, are our first cruise ship participant. And for that, you get a hearty round of applause. And in the rich tradition of the show, you get
nothing.
Right.
I hope you don't get COVID. May you stay COVID-free and have a great vacation.
Cruises are great. Yeah. Tom says the Lido deck must be closed. How dare you?
Mark Thompson airing on the Lido deck.
Yes, that's right. That'd be great. I'd like to do a cruise. So I'll tell you real quick, Ron Owens used to do, because it's KGO story.
Yeah.
Ron Owens used to do cruises. And I remember we were going to do one cruise. Oh, here's Ron used to do the cruises. I accompanied him on one. And then I did a cruise. And I didn't really like cruises at the time, but I did one also. And the spots ran on KGO, you know, if you want to be on with Mark Thompson on the cruise, blah, 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 blah. And the sign-up sheet for my cruise was not very good, as I recall. It was like they kept running spots saying, hey, the cruise is leaving, you know, January 5th.
There's still room.
There's still room. There's some good spots available.
Yeah.
And we did go on the cruise, but I think it was sort of you know, in terms of them making money on it, I don't think they did so well. But on my end, all I did was get a free cruise. I mean, they didn't pay me any money. So anyway, that was it's great to have somebody on a cruise watching today. But that's Ronnie got me involved with this guy who was the cruise ship dude. And then I did a cruise of my own because he asked me, could you do one? We'd love it if you do one. So I do one. And of course, mine was a total failure. That's basically what I'm telling you. I did want to mention that the gangster in New York, who was out on some sweetheart deal from the Manhattan's DA's office, he got out and apparently mugged a 14-year-old boy.
Oh no.
Yeah. He's Charles Lindsay. He's now behind bars on new charges. The Manhattan office, which refused to say Friday whether it will try to even get rid of the sweetheart deal that it made with the suspect originally. He's from a gang, and they've been connected to several high-end heists, they say. He's 22 years old. He was facing 4 felony counts of grand larceny in December for allegedly helping to snatch a total of $25,000 in handbags and other luxury items from Madison Avenue boutiques. It was a string of robberies. But instead of prosecuting the case, apparently the DA in Manhattan agreed to let him go if he went to 5 sessions with the Manhattan Justice Opportunities. This is a diversion program that's set up for offenders in New York. So they let the guy out. And he, a little over a month later, he and 3 others walked up to a 14-year-old boy on Fulton Street in Bedford-Stuyvesant, punched him in the face, and snatched his cash and iPhone. Wow.
That's horrible.
Cops recognized him from a photo from the department, and they arrested him again, and now he's back behind bars again. That's the other side of, of those programs that are designed to give people a second chance. A man accused of dumping water on his brother's head to cool him down during an argument over key lime pie is facing prison time. I'm asking.
What?
Yes.
For a water splash?
64-year-old man, and we were going to move this to Florida because it does take place in Florida, but we decided it falls into the category of law and disorder.
This is a man with anger.
This guy is
a man that has
potentially facing
resentment
multiple
towards you.
decades in prison, as well as thousands of dollars in fines for dumping 2 glasses of water on his older brother during an argument over key lime pie. The older man was saving this key lime pie, you see, Kim. And the dude who ended up in the joint ate his pie. David Sherman Powelson, taken into custody, charged with 1 count of first-degree felony aggravated battery on a person 65 years of age or older.
You don't eat another man's pie.
No, you do not. By the time the deputy arrived there, the victim of this assault, alleged, said that he had been sitting in his reclining chair in the living room of the house, which is all you want to do when you're a senior citizen in Florida. And he saw that his brother had eaten a piece of key lime pie that, quote, he was saving. The victim became upset. An argument ensued, as it might. While sitting in the chair, David Powelson emptied 2 large glasses of water on the victim.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
The victims feared Powelson's aggressive behavior would lead to him being physically harmed or even killed, Kim. The deputy then spoke with Powelson about what transpired between them. Transpired is a ding word. According to the document filed in court, Powelson said that his brother had left a piece of key lime pie in the refrigerator for several days without eating the dessert, so Powelson ate it himself. The 2 argued about the pie, and then Powelson, near the kitchen, decided to fill up a large glass of water, dump it on the victim's head to cool him down, is what the report said. After speaking to both parties, the responding deputy arrested Powelson, took him to the Lee County Sheriff's Office jail, where he was booked into detention.
What he's got going here is a situation.
And before you knew it, he had a situation, Kim. That's right. It was the key lime pie caper. And it didn't work out so well, did
There's
it?
a reason that this place is fun.
That, my friends, is Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Yeah. Wow. Alec Baldwin, a gang member out on a sweetheart deal.
This is a pretty good Law and Order.
I thought it really was a strong one. By the way, I did promise Michael Irvin. I meant to just mention he was picked up in that Marriott thing, and now it turns out that Irwin is filing a $100 million lawsuit against Marriott and the accuser of falsely accusing him of this stuff. He's saying that they're real damages, right? So I'll keep you posted on this. Remember, I told you at the time, it was weird because no formal charges were filed, but just the allegation of some harassment in the lobby against Michael Irvin was enough to get him pulled off of all those NFL broadcasts for Super Bowl week. So it did have an effect. He's trying to prove his innocence, but you'll also recall that Kim told you during that little run that he had a history, and that's probably what hurt him. Now, Albert, what would you like to do? Some shout-outs?
Yeah, some shout outs, and then we'll get to the news, and then David Cay Johnston's coming up next.
Love it. So I did see a great bit of support today. We're crowdfunded, I must tell you, people. I try not to hit you over the head with it, but we try to set up different fun ways for you to support the show. And then we just have to ask you straight up, because crowdfunding needs a crowd, and you are that crowd. We try to bring you different kinds of stories, serious stories, solid analysis, big guests. David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, is coming up, and he's a regular on our show. David Katz on Thursdays. Tomorrow, Rothman joins. Belinda Weymouth. We talk about issues involving the planet with a segment we call It's the Planet Stupid. So we try to do our part, and we're always trying to evolve and expand, and we have some great things planned for the future, but we need your help too. So anyway, super stickers, super chats are the way you do it in YouTube. If you're watching in replay, there's a heart with a $sign. You can click that and contribute. Also, Patreon and PayPal. Those are the real ways on an ongoing basis you can help this show. So to get there, you go to themarkthompsonshow.com, themarkthompsonshow.com, and you'll click contribute on the Patreon click through, or you can click contribute on the PayPal click through, and that way you can support the show. Now, how about some super stickers and super? This is what I thought I saw.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Hobbs, who is amazing. Big shout out from Dan Ashby.
Shout out.
And
That's
also,
a nice number. 4477.
4477.
I'm not gonna cry.
It is cry territory. It is super cry territory. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. You're a regular viewer and a regular supporter, and it means so much to us. And I'm not going to cry, but I'm crying on the inside because it was really.
Thank you,
Kevin. That's for all the ways you support us. The Lady Beatrice for $4.99. The war has been bad for the Russian economy. How long before people revolt? I will talk to David Cay Johnston about that. And it's interesting you mentioned this, Lady Beatrice, because how it's playing in Russia is very different than the way it's playing here and in the West. And I'll review some of the specifics with you about that when I talk to David Cay Johnston. But meantime, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Renee Blanquies. Renee, thank you. I want to give you a
thank you.
And I'm going to give you a British thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, really. Renee, appreciate it very much, the support. Harry Magnan, another one. This is for your new internet connection.
May the data packets be with you.
May the data package
and also with you.
Be with you. Yeah. I cannot believe the problems with the internet, but we have a new connection coming.
Yeah.
And actually it was suggested by a viewer listener yesterday, and then it was reinforced by somebody who does a YouTube show. He said, hey, you ought to try this. So I didn't think it was possible to change it and upgrade it, but we're going to do it.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. I will be upgrading tomorrow.
Good.
All right, much to do. David Cay Johnston the next hour, and we're excited to have him here. You smash that like button like a boss.
With your iron rod.
And Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. The governor of Ohio and the man in charge of the EPA are drinking the water in East Palestine. Yeah, let me just show you a picture of what happened there with the horrible train derailment and the toxic smoke that went up in that area. Well, it happened when Republican Mike DeWine and EPA Administrator Michael Reagan were going door to door in the village trying to convince residents that the air and water there are safe. After doing so, DeWine called on Congress to address loopholes that allowed the train operated by Norfolk Southern to enter Ohio without notification of the toxic chemicals that it was hauling. And apparently, they say they are drinking the water there. Former President Jimmy Carter is said to be surrounded by loved ones now as he spends his final days at his home in Plains, Georgia. Admirers in Carter's home state and beyond are offering their well wishes as the nation's oldest living president at age 98 now receives hospice care.
I want to mention one thing about that because I got an interesting comment in the after hours YouTube. People who watch on replay leave comments.
Sure. Yeah.
And I look at those comments, and somebody was mentioning that she and her husband, they were bothered by my comments about Jimmy Carter. At the time, I was talking about the fact that with all of the problems that beset his presidency, that he could be looked at as having had a failed presidency. And in the decades that followed, he's viewed as an elder statesman and someone certainly always viewed with a great sort of purity of heart and character.
I think
But
that's
that
right.
the problems with his administration have sort of been glossed over. I went back and I actually started reading more about the Carter administration in specifics because I thought, maybe I'm giving him not a fair enough shake. And I think it is true that he was an interesting president and an important president and tried to do many things that were transformational. And he was beset by issues that he had very little control over.
Sure.
But that is the nature of the gig, But I want to ask David Cay Johnston in a few minutes, and he'll comment on it as well. So I do want you to know, when you leave a comment in the chat or something, and you leave a comment in after hours comments, I read them, and it's thought-provoking often, and this is one of those situations. So.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what David has to say about the situation, because I always thought that that the same as you, that his presidency may not have been successful. That doesn't mean he wasn't a great person and didn't go on to do great things. And also, I would say even if you're beset by things that you have little control over, it's about how you meet those challenges and was he able to meet them? And I don't necessarily think he was.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, again, you have to get into some specifics, and I feel as though, again, upon reflection, he was better than we think. Again, you're a victim a little bit of your time, but transformational is a ding word. Okay.
Right.
We'll talk about it.
So, yes, and I will just move right along here. It is stocks tumbling, a sell-off gripping Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell more than 500 points as Home Depot led the decline, unfortunately. It looks like fears about rising interest rates and weekly quarterly earnings also sent the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ down more than 1.5% so far today. It is, as we had already mentioned, Fat Tuesday, and Polish communities are celebrating, enjoying this tradition of what's called punchki. It's a dough fried, then topped with powdered sugar, filled with custard or jelly flavors. It's Fat Tuesday or Mardi Gras, the day of indulgence for Christians before Lent begins tomorrow. So if you celebrate that, happy punchki to you as well. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, Steve is the one to call at 888-TAX-DEAL at moskowitzllp.com. And I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
So cool to be here on Tuesdays. It's the day I really look forward to because it brings this guy who's so generous with his time. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner. His investigative work has been recognized with Pulitzers and all the other accolades that the journalism community bestows upon people. And his books are bestsellers. He's written books about Trump. He's written books about the tax code and how it's exploited by the wealthiest Americans. and his perspective on government, on law, on international politics. It's just one that we can't get enough of. Welcome for David Cay Johnston, everybody.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, sir. Just because it was mentioned and because he is in the news right now, and I sort of have revised my take now after looking back at his administration a bit. Could you give me a thought about Jimmy Carter and his presidency? And he inherited a bad economic situation from Ford. The Iranian crisis with hostages occurred during his administration. I wonder if you can give me, he had solar panels on the White House. He was a kind of he may be one of the smartest guys to ever sit in that office, right, David?
Yes. Well, remember that we were coming out of the era of Nixon, and up to that time, the most serious threat to our democracy posed by the criminal activities of Nixon, who, was pardoned by Jerry Ford and whose tax lawyer went to prison. Yes, Carter was hit with a lot of things that were unfortunate, but that's the nature of the presidency. Obama came into office having inherited this terrible economy. Right after George W. Bush came into office, we had 9/11, and that's the nature of the job. You're supposed to live with those things. Mm-hmm. I've always thought it's significant that in the Navy, Carter was a nuclear submarine officer. He wasn't a commander, but he was an officer in a nuclear submarine. And one of the criticisms of him at the time was that he treated everything as equally important. Well, if you're an officer in a nuclear submarine, that might be a very important mindset to have, because you don't want anything to go wrong. But he didn't do a good job of prioritizing. And a lot of people were turned off by his efforts to separate himself from the imperial presidency. He came off Air Force One carrying his own suit bag on occasion. He ordered the thermostats turned down in the White House and wore sweaters. And this simply didn't sit well with the American people, or at least a large segment of them. And as Kim was pointing out, there's never been a more decent human being in the White House than Jimmy Carter. Nobody, and I don't think anybody at all in his league. And we've had, rogues and idiots and scholars and thoughtful people, but nobody with the depth of character and who is, by every definition, actually a Christian than Jimmy Carter.
Right. And when you say actually a Christian, it's not so much the belief in the Lord or going to church. It's that sort of living the life right. That's that's professed to be the life.
As opposed to, our most recent former president, who goes around calling himself a Christian and yet wrote 6 pages in one of his books calling Christians fools, idiots, schmucks, and denouncing them and declaring that his life philosophy is one word: revenge, which is as aggressively anti-Christian as you can possibly get. And I'm not arguing that
he strong-armed a whole crowd just to take a photo up with a Bible upside down or whatever it was. It's he was virtue signaling or whatever.
The point is that Carter was who he said he was, right, more than I think anybody else that we've seen in office, and he was a model of how to live a moral life.
But it's almost like he was too nice, too good to play dirty politics. And in order to get things done in Washington, D.C., you got to play the dirty politics. I don't like it, but that's the way it is. And so I wonder if that's why he wasn't successful, because he was kind of too far above the, knowing where the bodies are buried and the grime and the backstabbing horribleness.
Well, look at Joe Biden, and you can see something very important. Joe Biden is the first president since Lyndon Johnson with a very deep knowledge of how Washington works. Carter was an outsider. He was governor of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Ronald Reagan was an outsider. He'd been governor of California and made a lot out of how much he stayed away from Washington. Now, George H.W. Bush was an insider, but he had run the CIA, and his field was foreign policy, not domestic. Bill Clinton, governor of Arkansas, a small and poor state. And George W. Bush, the most incurious man who's ever been in the White House, at least in my lifetime. And then Barack Obama, also an outsider. He was a U.S. senator basically long enough to have a cup of coffee in the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And along comes Biden with this incredibly deep knowledge of how things work. And although the public doesn't seem to grasp it and the news media coverage has been hostile, he's enormous accomplishments. And he just did something that I think was enormously brave. He's the first president in my lifetime, and perhaps much longer, who went outside of a secure military zone when he went to Kyiv. You know, when a couple of presidents went to Iraq and Afghanistan, they were deeply inside thoroughly secured areas. Biden was not. And 30 years ago, in 1993, Biden had a 3-hour, at the time, secret meeting with Slobodan Milosevic, where he told him to his face, "You're a war criminal and you should be tried and imprisoned." And of course, Milosevic later, after the war in Bosnia, Croatia, and Herzegovina, became the only head of state in modern times who's actually been arrested and tried. His trial went on for 5 years with the delays, and he died in prison before there was a verdict. But I think it's without a doubt that he was a war criminal. They could have killed Biden. He was just a senator. And you have this murderous, genocidal group of people that Milosevic is leading, and he went and met with him one-on-one. So I think that people should pay a lot of attention. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, thinks that this is an atrocity, that on President's Day, the president was in Kyiv and not paying attention to us. And of course, she wants Russia to win because at core, if she has a philosophy, it's fascistic and autocratic.
Yeah, well, she also is coming up with this, look, that's its own kind of signaling, right, to a constituency that, you know, just wants fireballs thrown all the time. I was going to say she came up with this wanting to secede. She believes that the red and blue cannot work. It was just yesterday, I believe, that she well, look, when you get to how the country is constructed, I believe you can summarize this, David, but essentially the blue states are throwing in a lot more than the red states into the collective kitty that supports in terms of federal funds and state-funded federal coffers.
Yeah, it's one of the curious things about America that the welfare states tend to be Republican. Alaska has its, in the words of someone like, or the view of someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, its socialist policy of distributing oil money to the citizenry, and it's quite red. And this is one of the oddities. My father, who grew up in New Orleans and left in 1929, just as he was turning 19, because he just couldn't stand the racism and went west, he used to always say that the Yankees made a big mistake at the end of the war. They should have hung the traitors and let the states go away. I never bought that argument.
Who said that? Your father?
My father was livid about racism.
Right.
And his whole life. He was a 100% disabled veteran of World War II and a chef, and slowly dying for the 20 years that I knew him until actually it was yesterday. He died 54 years ago yesterday.
Oh, wow.
But he felt very strongly that the South was not going to come to grips with its legacy of racism. And you can find people on the internet who are in favor of let's bring back slavery, let's expel these people who don't have white skin from the country. I mean, they're all over the place. And Donald Trump has given them permission by, calling neo-Nazis fine people and other remarks. And it's, we have tensions, but there's no need to take the Republic apart over it. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, remember, probably speaks to a very small circle of people, and the depth of her knowledge is roughly the equivalent of the sheet on your bed at night.
She's not the deepest person. I agree with that. So I mean, she plays one tune, and she's playing it all the time, 24/7. Let me ask you about this move that Biden made. As you suggested, it's quite courageous. His history in going to these various areas and calling out, as you've also suggested, the war criminals in the case of Milosevic, is a good one, is one to be proud of. Let me ask you about what's going on at the same time in this country. Palestine, Ohio, of course, East Palestine is being affected by this ongoing horror with the chemical explosion, chemical leak, a poisoning of waterways and land and soil. I say this because they can say what they want about how everything's safe now. I mean, fish, wildlife, dead, sick, people are going into doctors' offices with all the symptoms associated with kind of the poisonings that would parallel this sort of thing. Shouldn't the Biden administration have sent the president there early on in this process? I mean, because now there's a visual now with Trump going to this area. And of course, Trump only cares about the photo op. Biden actually has the heart. That's the point I was making in the first hour. Why didn't he go early on to this situation? Wasn't that a mistake?
When presidents go to these disaster scenes, they shouldn't go early on because it diverts all sorts of resources away from the work that needs to be done. And we got to get over this notion that somehow it helps for the president to come right away, because it doesn't. It's negative. But in either the second or third book in my Trump trilogy, so either It's Worse Than You Think or The Big Cheat, there's a whole chapter called Bomb Trains. And it's about Elaine Chao, a.k.a. Mrs. Mitch McConnell, who was transportation secretary, and how the railroads and the shale oil industry, particularly for Bakken crude from North Dakota, wanted to loosen the rules on safety. And they did so. So trains are still using the Westinghouse air brake technology developed in the late 19th century. We're in the 21st century, instead of modern braking. And Norfolk Southern, which owns the train that's involved in the East Palestine problem, and in the recent, since then, Michigan derailment, fought this tooth and nail to not spend the money and delay it. And when I have said on your show before, we need to rethink white collar crime, I think we need to have some kind of accountability for this action. There were plenty of people who said, if you don't adopt these new modern braking policies, especially as we get trains that are 100 cars and longer, we're going to have death and destruction. And if you're spending your shareholders' money to argue against that, there ought to be some kind of serious penalty for you for these things, where we know there's danger if something happens. And I don't know exactly how to think this through, trust me, but I do think that our legal scholars should be working very hard on revising our thoughts about white collar crime and white collar culpability and accountability.
Oh, this is such a great point. And of course, you saw it with the mortgage crisis in 2008 in a totally different way. It didn't involve poisons, but it involved an economic toxicity. So the idea somehow that these guys skate without owning any of it, it's reprehensible. It's awful. It's, if I can say it, un-American.
Well, what I call these rules that shift the costs off onto us as taxpayers. For example, if there's all Amtrak trains run on lines owned by the freight railroads. If there's a crash and there are damages, they're paid by the taxpayers. Even if, as in the case I wrote about years ago in Free Lunch, you can prove that the railroad, CSX in this case, was the proximate cause of a fatal crash that killed a lot of train riders. The company defends the case, but when it's all over, it then just hands the bill to the taxpayers because Congress passed a law. Well, when you tell railroads, well, you don't have to pay the bills for people killed in an Amtrak crash, even if you caused it, that's a vicious policy, not a virtuous one. It encourages you to behave viciously by not maintaining safety, where on the other hand, a virtuous policy would reward and encourage the right kind of conduct. And these problems have gone on for a long, long time. Now, there's a whole bunch of things Biden inherited that he didn't jump on. Trump's IRS commissioner, who was a specialist in helping tax cheats get off the hook, he was there until I think last October. Trump hasn't gotten rid of the postmaster general, which he can't do directly, but he can indirectly by appointing people. He's really been slow on a whole bunch of terrible appointees and policies. The one thing where it's a good thing he's left somebody in place is he got resignations from 89 of the 90 U.S. attorneys, but the one in Delaware who's investigating his son, Hunter Biden, was left in place and has been free to pursue Hunter Biden, his son, which he should do. And I'm glad that he did the right thing. I can't imagine if it were Donald Trump that would happen for a minute.
No, I mean, that'd be the first guy out if it were Trump. But
as in
again,
fact happened in New York with Preet Bharara.
Right. Thank you. Exactly right. You're so right about this, and it's interesting that the Republican general position is, and I hate to always make it party specific, but it is sort of the familiar refrain: government's bad. Government. We need smaller government. You even hear Kinzinger talking about that. I was seeing an interview with Kinzinger talking about, do you still consider yourself a Republican? He says, well, I don't know what the Republican Party stands for anymore, but I'm still for smaller government. So smaller government, again, they reflexively talk about that. Yet they've grown government, the Republicans have. Bush grew what? He grew Homeland Security, TSA. It all created the biggest government agency in history of our government was grown under Bush. So much for small government. But the point is, here in the case of Palestine, now you see the GOP and Trump himself calling for where is FEMA? Where is the government? Hey, guys, you're the ones who deregulated. You, Trump, deregulated that braking thing. You rolled back those protections against these toxic chemicals being transported without warning. And now you want the government involved? You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, but that's exactly what they want to do. I mean, back in the early 1950s, when I was a little kid, the Republican Party said publicly, we're going to protect Social Security. We didn't have Medicare back then, but Social Security, and we're going to expand it. And they talked about how they were the friend of working people and unions. And during the Reagan era, Republicans described themselves as the party of ideas. The problem is it's no longer a party of ideas. It is a party who at its top has a absolutely craven, empty suit in Kevin McCarthy. The other aspect of the top in Mitch McConnell has an extraordinarily skilled politician. Whatever you think of Mitch McConnell, you'd be a fool not to understand that he is one of the most skilled politicians who's ever lived. And you have a party that is in favor of all sorts of things that have nothing to do with ideas. They have to do with make America white again.
Wow. Murphy's saying that just as we wrap up, Biden also offered help with Palestine cleanup, and the governor refused. Is that right? I didn't remember.
Yeah,
that.
Mike Lyons, the Republican governor of Ohio, doesn't want his star at all tarnished here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And this is not the first time that's ever happened, and it isn't the last. It's sort of petty politics at the expense of people there. I do think that we should pay a lot of attention to how Norfolk Southern has behaved. Its CEO clearly is behaving badly. He only met with a small group of local people behind closed doors. His public comments have been so anodyne as to be soulless. And hopefully the board of directors of Norfolk Southern are going to wake up and remove him for his mishandling of this, because CEOs get paid. My wife was a CEO for 30 years. They get paid for strategy, vision, and execution. And I would say this guy has failed all three tests.
Well, you say it straight and you say it starkly, and I think it is a straight, stark situation. The way in which these deadly chemicals are transported and the way in which responsibility is shifted. So these companies get all the profits, all the benefits, all the tax benefits, which you've written about like crazy. And then the responsibility for cleanup and remediation falls to the communities and to the feds. It's revolting, really.
Yeah, that's a good word, revolting.
Well, all speaking of words, Tom, who is our unofficial keeper of ding words on the show, anodyne is a ding word. Very, very good.
Yep, agree with you, Tom.
Yes, thank you for hooking us up with the ding word on the way out. Catch David Cay Johnston here on Tuesdays and read all of his various work. It's a great piece he did back in January about something that we'll talk about next week. It's at dcreport.org, where he is a co-founder. David, so enjoy time with you. Thank you.
See you, folks.
David Cay Johnston, everybody. Yeah. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash that like button like a boss for the great David Cay Johnston. By the way, I wanted to tell you that coming up, we have an update. Kim has been in touch with Joe Box about the banner that we have.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
The banner that we had behind me, some call it a tarp. It was auctioned off and sent to everybody on the show who then autographed it and wrote a little something, inscribed it, or however you want to refer to it, sent it on to Kim for final inscription and autograph.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kim handled the final leg of this journey in delivery to Joe Box.
Joe Box and little Anthony.
But apparently it has not made it to Joe Box. And
no, it hasn't.
We will have an update after your newscast. Is that cool? Will you update us? And you
yeah, I will. I will give you the update.
Read the email maybe from Joe.
Yeah.
But smash the like button, and
with your iron
it helps us in the algorithms of YouTube. By the way, Los Angeles residents and those listening to iHeartRadio, I'll be on today. Tim Conway Jr.'s sick, I think, so I'll be hosting that show. So if you just can't get enough of me,
and really, who can?
That will be going on. That'll be at 4:00 Pacific time. Anyway, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And this is the newscast on the Mark Thompson Show. I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Now let's get to the news. Congresswoman Barbara Lee, running for the U.S. Senate, the California Democrat, tweeting her announcement promising real change. She also released a video on her background. She's promising to take on the climate crisis, economy, and she says stop so-called far-right extremists from enacting legislation that takes away rights. She noted there are no African-American women currently in the U.S. Senate. Pretty big decision.
Barbara Lee is a terrific mind. She's been on the right side of most everything. I mean, meaning the correct side of most everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't she the only U.S. senator to stand up and not vote for the invasion of Iraq? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So she has a distinguished role as a legislator. I don't know what her political viability is, but good for her for getting into the race. She's 75. So those who seem to recoil from older people these days serving in a public office may not like that, but she's clearly a very vibrant mind and capable of making a lot of the right decisions.
A big decision today could come on California's assault weapons ban, could be hours away now. The final step in the case due today, and a federal judge will rule sometime after that. Advocates on both sides of the gun debate expect the judge will again overturn the law as he did in 2021. At that time, a higher court reinstated it. Governor Gavin Newsom recently warned this may happen while revealing new gun control legislation after 2 mass shootings here in California. There's a California congressman back from a trip to Ukraine. John Garamendi of Vallejo visited the border with Poland to check on weapons on the front lines. He said there were concerns within Congress that American equipment wasn't arriving to help the war-torn country battle Russia. But he said that wasn't the case. And while he was there, he said a plane landed, unloaded about 20 tons of weapons, rockets, artillery shells, and much more. So he was pleased with what he saw. There's a 5th grader at that same Virginia elementary school where a 6-year-old shot his teacher. Another student there no longer attending class. School officials removed a student for allegedly threatening to, quote, pop some bullets in a text conversation. Not sure if there was a teacher threatened there or not, but a student now pulled from the class. Looks like they're not taking any chances there like they did last time. Twitter facing lawsuits totaling $14 million for not paying its bills. That's right. Wall Street Journal reporting there are at least 9 lawsuits now accusing Twitter of skipping out on rent and other financial obligations. The national... did you have a comment?
No, I just am surprised. Although, they were flush with money. They got a lot of... The sale of Twitter to Elon Musk brought them a lot of money, right? That was Musk overpaid for it.
He did, but also his tactic, from what I understand, is don't pay your rent, and that then puts you in a good place to renegotiate that rent.
Wow,
but
that is
what? What? Wait a minute.
Oh.
I don't think they want to negotiate.
Don't try that at home. I might
not even meeting their obligations. So something horrible happened in Walnut Creek, unfortunately. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is asking Tesla for information after a driver in one of the company's electric vehicles was killed in a car accident over the weekend. Investigators believe the car's self-driving feature was engaged at the time of a crash in Walnut Creek. The vehicle model involved in the accident currently under recall for issues related to that self-driving system. So another problem with that. There is a boom of books showing up online written with artificial intelligence. Chat GPT, that program, the AI software built by San Francisco's OpenAI, receives prompts from the user and then fashions a story. One reporter who successfully published a children's book written by Chat GPT says he can see this turning into a career. Are you kind of cheating? I don't know. There's a you didn't really write that book. There's a first generation iPhone. Lastly, this last story, sold at auction for more than 10 times its original cost. When the iPhone was introduced in June of 2007, doesn't it seem like it's been around for a lot longer than that? It had a price tag of $599. The item up for auction was in a box. It was never opened. This brand new original iPhone. How much did it sell for, Mark Thompson?
Oh, that's a great question. The original iPhone in the box, never. I don't know. Let me just think this through. Pristine.
Yeah.
I'd like to phone a friend in the chat if I could, please.
All right.
If you're in the chat, maybe you have a thought. The
Don't look it up,
original
you guys.
iPhone still in the box.
Yeah.
Never touched. 63K. Wow, I don't think it was that much. Maybe it was. I don't know.
That's exactly right. It was.
Is
sold
that
for-
right? Oh
Somebody-
my gosh, that
somebody
is
did a
very
search.
impressive.
Yes, it was auctioned off for $63,000. An iPhone that you will never use, right?
Everybody saw it online yesterday. That's not fair. That's not how we play the game. My God.
Why are you yelling?
I just.
Oh,
Let me tell you what has to happen. If you want Clarence Thomas to recuse himself in the Supreme Court from cases involving his wife, you need to recuse yourself from questions when you already know the answer because you saw it the day before.
Why are you yelling?
That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, Steve Moskowitz is the one to call at 888-TAX-DEAL and moskowitzllp.com. All right, I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson? 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 Who's Mark Thompson?
Okay, I get it. Somebody doesn't know who I am. All right, we have to. Yeah, I'm going to make a movie about it, please. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday. I will ask you to smash the like button like a boss. I mean, hit that thumbs up because when you do,
Smash it with your iron rod.
it helps us in the algorithms of YouTube. Otherwise, we are crowdfunded, as you know, so you support us through Patreon and PayPal if you haven't already. Some of you have been really cool. You've gone back into Patreon and like upped your monthly, which is really cool. It helps us with the offsetting of various expenses. And as things change, there are a couple of very big changes. We very much need funding to continue. So thank you for that. I want to get into That's Rich, but before we do, you're collecting any, I hope you're collecting any comments I need to respond to, Albert, maybe before the end of the show. I'll try to address any substantive remarks or comments or thoughts that people have. I think we've kind of addressed them a bunch with David Cay Johnston, et cetera, but happy to revisit anything. I also promised an update on Joe Box. Now, Joe Box, again, had won the bidding for our banner, the Mark Thompson Show banner. We all autographed it, sent it off, but apparently it's never reached Joe Box. So, Kim, I wonder if you could update
Joe Box and Little
what
Anthony.
happened. You've been in touch with Joe Box. You were to have sent him the banner, and what happened? Let us know. I have to unmute yourself, though, before you tell us. So there you go.
So let us go back to this moment where John Daly and I go out to lunch. We sign the banner. We're all proud of it. We put it back in its giant tube, and I ship it off. Take it to the UPS store. And then the very next day, open the door, and the tube is back on my porch. So I take it back to the UPS store. And the UPS store says, you know what, we're going to take all of the stickers that say Petaluma off of it, so it goes to the right place. All right. So then we are tracking it, Joe Box and I.
Yeah.
And we've been emailing back and forth at this point. And he says, yeah, I can see it. Shows you sent it. But it looks like instead of coming to New York, which is where Joe Box is located, as she should be, it goes to a UPS store in Brentwood, California, in the Southern California area.
That's weird.
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
Might it have been Fat Andy? Do you think? I mean, Fat Andy, I thought is in Jersey, but
at this point, we have taken this to calling the TARP saga now.
Yeah.
So now I get and we're emailing back and forth, and the more the TARP is not coming to him, the funnier it gets, and on its journey and travels. So then I get this great email from him last night, and it says, let me see if I can get to the
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Let's see, emailing back and forth from receipts.
You have a separate computer set up just for your Joe Box communications?
I know. I should though.
Yeah.
Anyway, it still has not arrived. I can't find the email, but it still has not arrived to Joe Box in New York. It is still on its travels. The UPS folks now say it's lost. They don't know where it is. They're not sure. Maybe in a storage facility somewhere. May still be hanging out at the UPS store in Brentwood, but nobody really knows where the TARP is. It is now gone. They're going to look for it, but the TARP is missing in action. The good news is Joe Box insured the TARP for $300. So if they lose it, he'll get his money back that he kicked into the show. That's the good thing.
Well, actually, I think make money on it if he can never find it, because he only bought it for $250.
That's right. Although I would argue with all the time he's put in trying to get the TARP sent to him.
Please, Joe Box's time is so valuable.
And I believe it is. Yes. The journey of the TARP. Yes. So here's the message, by the way. Heard you on the broadcast Friday. The banner is officially lost. I have a claim filed with UPS. Good news, however, is that I insured it for $300. So if it truly never makes it here, if the cost of the donation would be refunded. In fact, I'll make another $50 donation to the show if I get the insurance money.
How about that?
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Yeah. It's a
The
fun
claim
little
center
journey of our
believes
banner. Yeah.
that it is either at a UPS store or was set aside somewhere at a distribution center. Hopeful for a delivery, but not overly optimistic. Signed, Joe Box.
Well, his time is valuable. Y'all did him dirty, says Al Anonymous. Wow. That's tough.
My bad.
TARP is gone.
What,
I mean,
we didn't do
will
him
never
dirty.
see the
He
TARP
said it.
again.
Yeah,
I
we
was
didn't do him
looking forward
dirty.
to a picture of where he decided to hang it. You know, maybe it's
Yeah.
got a
How
restaurant.
dare you, Al? We handled this with the greatest. There's never been anything like this.
I've never seen anything like it before.
We marshaled all of the powers of the Mark Thompson show, and the staff all signed it, including Tony.
Yeah.
Tony was really hard to get. Remember, we had to
Tony
wait
signed
to
it.
get Tony's.
Courtney
and he-
signed it. You signed it.
Yeah.
The only
So-
missing signature is Albert's, really. And that was pre-Albert. So
It was pre-Albert when he bought
Albert,
it.
thank you.
Yeah, but
So
anyway,
the TARP saga continues. I'm kind of sad to think that it's now gone forever. Thanks a
Well,
lot,
it's,
UPS.
we have
processes and protocols and standards.
all we can do is follow the processes, and if it doesn't get to where we need to go, then it does not. Really, really tough.
What can you tell us about the scene?
It's disappointing, Joe Box, but you may ultimately end up with money instead of the banner. It's
Which
incredible, though. It's
might
not
be
like
better
if it were
anyway.
some piece of jewelry or some, I don't see how the banner is worth anything to anybody. You'd think it would be, I don't know. TARP derailment, says M. DeWitt. Exactly. So anyway, Good stuff. Thank you for that update. And now, without any further delay,
The Mark Thompson Show.
we like to follow some of the high-profile money that flows around our society. We do it in a regular segment on this show called That's Rich.
Who are they?
The top 1/10
Was I
of
supposed to play
1%.
the
What are they like?
These people are so posh and snobby, they're snotty.
That's Rich on the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, baby. Thank you. That's Rich, kids. There is a new priciest neighborhood in America. It used to be Manhattan, but there is a new priciest neighborhood in America. I'm asking you, where is it? It used to be that Manhattan was the priciest place in the nation to buy a place. In New York City, it would set you back at least $1 million. But the number of places in New York City that will set you back $1 million is on the decline.
Oh.
And as a result, yes, the average price of a single-family home in this place has taken the #1 spot. Where will it be? I ask you in the chat.
Does it have to be a city, or can it be more like a smaller town?
It can be a smaller town if you want. On Mark Thompson Terrace, says Mike. Palo Alto. Luz says Palo Alto. San Diego, says Walter.
I was going to say Atherton.
Atherton is always a good choice.
Yeah.
Not the answer, though.
No.
Fremont. Nope. Cupertino. These are good guesses around Silicon Valley. You got to sort of nibble around there. Peninsula. It's on the peninsula for sure. That's what Huge in Japan is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the actual answer. It has been guessed. I'm sure after a Google search. Al Anonymous has it. Where is Al Anonymous? He changed his. He's guessed like so many things. Never mind. Florida next to the Whole Foods. Says M. Oak. Woodside is a great guess, John. Not right, though. Belvedere is a great guess from John Watson near Tiburon. Tiburon's a great guess. Sunnyvale's a great. These are all great guesses. The actual retail price is Star Island in Miami. That's right.
Wow. Okay.
Miami's Star Island is now the nation's most expensive neighborhood. The number of New York City areas where buying a home would set you back at least $1 million is on the decline. As I mentioned, the average price of a single-family home on Star Island, that's the man-made enclave near Miami Beach. It is the home to celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal, Gloria Estefan, Rosie O'Donnell. The average price, is this true, of a single-family home on Star Island? Wait a minute, what's the average price?
Not really a single family home. It's like a mansion, though, right?
I guess they say single-family, though.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's a single-family mansion.
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's just, be
single
realistic.
Families, Kim.
Yeah.
Single families.
Single family. Yeah, you could fit maybe another family in the, in the wine room, the wine tasting room, or the theater, whatever you have there.
As long as it has a pool house or maybe a space for your housekeeper to live and your chef,
So you tell me, what is the average price of a single family home on Star Island, the new wealthiest neighborhood in America? $3.5 million average, says John. Lulu 1.8. It's way north of that. Way north of even 3.5.
I'm going to go 16.3.
16.3. This is 8 million, says My Collection Stella. 7.5 says Edward. 8 says N-Star. Single family, 14 bedrooms and 16 bathrooms, says Walter. Exactly. The answer is startling. The actual retail price of a single family home on Star Island, a man-made enclave, I should say, off the coast. 40.2 million. Are you kidding me? 40.2 million is the average.
They don't want just any millionaire living there. You have
That's
to be
a 71% increase from the average price of $23.5 million for a home on the island just 3 years ago. The hedge fund billionaire who runs Citadel just purchased 5 properties on the island for a combined $194 million. And that's what pushed Star Island to the top of those rankings. It's now 4 times as expensive to be on Star Island as Beverly Hills, more than twice as expensive as the second priciest neighborhood in the country, the Port Royal section of Naples, Florida, according to Zillow. So for all the fun we make of Florida, it's more than just, trashy mobile homes down there with alligators.
Well, I wonder if Star Island has, I mean, is it a gated type of situation where you you can keep the crazy out, the Florida crazy out?
I'm sure that the crazy quotient is lower than you'd find
surrounded by water with a bridge that you can, lock up.
Well, it does. It does have a bridge. That is Star Island.
Okay.
But
how many machetes do you think are in the households at Star Island?
I'm guessing. Yeah, I'm guessing guns and machetes are a part of the Star Island world. Don't you think?
The Florida experience, it's like the rite of passage of living.
The Florida experience, very well put.
So if I have a $40 million house, I'm thinking maybe I have a guard hut at the entrance, right? So maybe it'll be all right. Yeah.
Well, that's certainly likely the case.
Yeah.
I wanted the Mark Wahlberg story, but for some reason it's not opening for me, Albert. Is there a reason for that?
No. I love
Mark
Mark
Wahlberg is selling his place.
Really?
I wanted to give you some of the details about it, but instead it's opening a different story. So I'll just tell you straight up. He's selling his place for $32 million, Mark Wahlberg. It's in Los Angeles. So I'll give you more stories regarding the Mark Wahlberg, more detailed sale in a moment. I will tell you.
I think he was going for 55, and he's focusing on moving to Las Vegas. I'm getting a new link for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's a Beverly Hills mansion with a backyard golf complex. Marky Mark. This is a big deal. It's got the backyard has a pool and a skate park, tennis basketball courts, a 5-hole golf course.
Wow.
He bought the property.
There's a reason this place is fun.
Yeah, it seems like it is fun.
He bought it for $8.25 million in 2009. He did a lot of construction on it, did what he had to do. 30,500 square feet, by the way. 12 bedrooms. How many bathrooms, you think?
Oh, good question. 12 bedrooms. How many bathrooms? I'm going to guess 14 bathrooms.
I'm sorry, but you're wrong, Mark.
Well, wait a minute. I want to see how many. So he's selling it for how much? It was 53, and now he's lowered it.
55.
Huh. 13 and a half says Edward Lee. 14 baths says M. Oak. That's what I guessed. 9 plus the pool. You can't always urinate in the pool. That's a tried and
that's
true.
That's a nice movie theater. Look at that. Fancy.
We love it. The movie theater's a bit over the top for us, really, Mark. 16 baths says Sandbug. What's the answer?
20 bathrooms.
Wow.
Yeah.
20 bathrooms is a lot, don't you think?
It's a lot of places to pee.
Yeah. That keeps peeing interesting, I think. You can always go to a different place.
You wouldn't have to pee in the same place. In a whole week, you could go to a different bathroom every time.
Yeah. For that alone,
he still uses like 3 bathrooms, like the one by the master, maybe one downstairs, and then one by the living room.
Yeah. It's a nice spot, though. Got to give it to him. That Mark Wahlberg. So he's going to move to Las Vegas?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric Idle from Monty Python is selling his place in LA.
Oh.
Yeah. You know him. He wrote and produced and won a Grammy. I don't know if he won a Tony. He might have for Spamalot. Do you remember Spamalot was
Yeah.
kind of the, yeah.
It was a musical,
it was
right?
fun.
Yeah.
He's now 79.
Okay.
And they are moving away from this 1930s Spanish revival style villa.
It doesn't look pretty to me.
They got it for $18 million.
Whoa.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Pardon me. They got it 18 years ago for $1.5 million.
Oh, well, that's much more like it.
$1.5 million is what they spent 18 years ago. What are they selling it for? How much is Eric Idle and his lovely wife expecting to bring in?
Where is it located?
It's located in Los Angeles. Let me see if I can find you an
Is
image.
it still the color of cotton candy?
It's set on almost 3/4 of an acre, enveloped in jungle-like foliage, more than 7,000 square feet. This mullet-style house presents itself to the street as a one-story home, but falls to 3 stories.
I like the beams and the Saltillo tile. It's nice.
Oh, yes. Very luxurious.
Saltillo tile.
Extensively updated over the years. Numerous original, authentically recreated styling and details.
If it was 1.5, I bet they're selling it for 21.
No. You say 21 in the chat. I see a lot of 23, 22, 12, 11, 9, 15, down 32, says Vilma, 26. What did you say, 22?
I think I said 21.
21.
Mm-hmm.
The home of Eric Idle, purchased 18 years ago for $1.5 million, has gone on the market this week at a sliver under $6.5 million.
That's it?
Wow, yeah. I know. Not everything in that's rich. It's a kind of misdirection thing. You get used to betting high.
You got the chandelier in the bathroom. That's nice.
Yeah,
I like a chandelier when I potty.
cute.
I like to feel
Yeah.
elegant. You know.
It's a Spanish revival, so I guess that's consistent with the Spanish revival. Look at those pictures. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see the
Pretty
pictures of
house.
the.
Yeah.
It is truly a Spanish revival, and I'm sure they've honored all the
I don't
Spanish
like the pink,
stylings.
but yeah.
You want one more, Albert? Do we have time for one more or not? This is the Pattinson house.
Sure, let's do one more.
Robert Pattinson.
Twilight?
You know him. How do you know him, Albert? You're a young person. You can explain.
Oh, yeah, Team Edward of the Twilight series. He was the famous non-tanned man of my teenage years.
Yeah. He's also, I believe, is he the next Batman, or is he gonna? Wasn't he cast as Batman?
He did the last Batman movie.
He did the last one.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. So the last Batman and all the Twilight series. It's not Wayne Manor, but it is Robert Pattinson's home. And he lives in the home with Suki Waterhouse. Who's that, Albert? Oh, I thought Albert would know.
Yeah, no clue. I'm guessing some really
Wow.
good-looking woman who's suited enough for one of the many.
God
one of the many
forbid he ends
iterations
up
of
with
Batman.
someone ugly. Oh,
Yeah, you think that
Gross.
she's a model and a singer is the answer. They paid millions for a hillside house with a Hollywood history. It's located in a discreet, gated community, the kind of place that Kim would like to live. She's already indicated she favors gated communities. Keep the riffraff out
yeah.
and keep the internet on.
Well, in Florida, particularly.
It
Here's
was
Suki, by the
originally
way.
built in the 1930s. It's a colonial revival style home, radically overhauled in the mid 2000s by designer Jeff Lewis, who featured the renovation on his Flipping Out Bravo reality TV show.
Oh.
Now, I'll tell you something else about this. This is kind of cool. It was acquired, this property was, by Gossip Girl creator Stephanie Savage. She sold the place 4 years later to Beck, the Grammy-winning musician
yeah.
Beck, and his wife.
Yeah.
Marissa Ribisi. Beck and Ribisi divorced in 2021, and she got full ownership of the house. So this house has history.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2,700 square feet, and she sold it to Pattinson for $5.3 million. So made $2.2 million more than what her ex-husband had paid for it just a couple of years before. So now it looks like Pattinson wants to sell the house also.
It's a nice kitchen.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, they just purchased it for 5.3. So they bought it from Beck's ex-wife. Yeah. Robert Pattinson, 36, Twilight films, indie films. You know where he was great? He was in a movie, like an offbeat indie film called, I want to say it's called Good Times or something like that. Could you check it out, Albert?
Google
I think
it.
that's right. He's brilliant in it, and it is a brilliant
a singular good time.
See that movie, you'll be happy you did. I mean, it's gritty and indie. It's about a lot of things, but kind of a heist that goes bad, and then it's weird, but it's weird in a real way, you know.
It cost a third of his house to make that movie.
Yeah, right. It was a low budget film, but I see we're late. Okay, let's wrap it up. But thank you for playing. That's Rich for today.
More on how the other half lives.
These people aren't just rich, they're crazy rich.
Next time on the Mark Thompson Show.
Now, we've had fun today. We've also gotten some stuff done. Beck's ex is Giovanni Ribisi's sister. Oh, that's interesting, Colleen. Thank you. Yeah, the Ribisi name is well known, huh? That's good knowledge. Name again of the movie is Good Times. That was the movie, indirect in the answer to your question. You can reach the show with any question like that or any other. Wes, are you kidding me? With a super sticker for $5? Come on. Big Dan Ashley shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah, thank you, Wes.
Appreciate that. Right here at the end, it's great to recognize so many who help us. Hey, we're crowdfunded, so you're the crowd, and we appreciate you once in a while throwing us a few dollars. Thank you so very much. Or as I like to say,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much. And we are going to continue to upgrade. We've got a couple of really cool things happening. We're closing in on 10,000 subscribers, and at 10,000, we're going to be able to do some things that we haven't been able to do up until now. And there is some other stuff happening too in terms of a listener event. We're trying to put that together for the spring. Yeah. So all of that will come in. At that event will be a lot of people who you know, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Again, that's a little further off over the.
That's real.
It's a little over the horizon, but I think you'll really enjoy it. So we'll get that all going in the days to come. Nikki's show is going down big. Yeah, she's got a good show. It's going down right now over on the Nikki Maduro channel. I encourage you to check it out.
Already? We're going?
I think we should reflect on ourselves, everyone. I think we can say job well done today. I want to
There's a lot of Florida in our show today. It's like it felt almost like a Friday.
It felt Florida. You're right.
Yeah.
Albert's right about that. It felt Florida. Kim was solid. Last minute, she got her internet working, which is good.
Yeah.
Albert was strong.
Albert, thank you.
No. So I felt the audience really stepped up today. Yeah, I want to acknowledge and give a round of applause to the audience. Yes. Yes, you heard it. A listener event. We're in the primordial ooze of it, but we will make it happen. Again, all sorts of things happen when we hit 10,000 subscribers, and we continue to grow this show and evolve it to new places with your help. And thank you. So until tomorrow, everyone. And tomorrow, I'll remind you.
Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
John Rothman joins us tomorrow. So we'll talk about
Bye-bye.
We'll talk about all things with him. Until tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.